no utilitarian. And if you're not a utilitarian, then you have to explain why you accept the lesser of two evils argument, but you don't accept it in the case of the infanticide of the disabled. And this is no easy task. I don't know of anybody who has advocated the lesser of two evil argument that has actually explained the difference. The second assumption of the lesser of two evil arguments is that Clinton is better than Trump. Well, of course, there are ways that Hillary Clinton is better than Trump. She's smarter, more experienced. Her politics is less objectionable to people on the left, or at least she sounds recently less objectionable. Trump is a bigot, a hate-monger, an administrative incompetent, and an intellectual invalid. In terms of personality and rhetoric, there is a huge gap between Clinton and Trump. On this count, Clinton is clearly better. That said, the second assumption of the lesser of two evil arguments, or lesser of two evils argument, requires more than Clinton has a better personality and a better ideology than Trump. In fact, it requires that if Clinton were elected president, then things would go better for the 99%, both in the US and outside the US, than if Trump were elected president. Now, many would want to connect the former point with this latter assumption. Since Hillary is better in her ideology, rhetoric, and intelligence, it would seem to follow that the country would be better off with her as the president. But is this really the case? It is not clear that the president's political ideology has a direct and simple connection to how they govern. For example, in terms of what he did, normalizing relations with China, the EPA, getting out of Vietnam, Nixon was a more progressive president than many Democrats. Similarly, despite being a Democrat, Bill Clinton was responsible for NAFTA, the prison industrial complex, the gutting of the welfare state, and military actions, bombing Afghanistan to distract from Lewinsky, that played a role in ratcheting up Islamist terrorism. There just isn't this direct and simple connection between POTUS's ideology and how they govern. It's worth stating this point in another way. One difference between Marxists and liberals is that the latter believe that ideology plays the most important role in determining society's characteristics, while the former believe that socioeconomic conditions play a more fundamental role. When looking at the material circumstances of Nixon's normalization of relations with China, we can see how they negated Nixon's virulent anti-communist ideology. The lesser of two evil argument presupposes that a liberal rather than a socialist or Marxist approach. As Marxists and revolutionary socialist alternative rejects the view that ideology plays a more important role in the material circumstances determining societal policies. However, even if we were to grant that a Clinton presidency would be better in the short term than a Trump presidency, and that ideology does have an effect on governance, it is not clear that this would be the best in the long term. By supporting Clinton, we are supporting the neoliberal establishment, and this is the establishment that fights to maintain and spread capitalism throughout the world. And if you think, as we do, that this system must be changed in order to handle the climate crisis, then in the long run, Clinton will be at least as bad as Trump, if not worse. She could be worse because she is and has been an adherent of neoliberal economic ideology, and Trump has been rejecting those free trade agreements that have hurt workers in the US. The Democratic Party is not a party that represents the working class or the oppressed minorities in the US. On every major progressive issue, they've had to be dragged along by the activists in the streets to do the right thing. As Howard Zinn says, it matters less who's sitting in the White House than it does who's sitting in. How did we get to this sorry state in which both of the major parties have come to represent the 1%? By voting for the lesser of two evils. It is time to break this cycle of abuse and build our own movement outside the grip of the ruling class's two-party system. This is Socialist Alternative's approach. Join us in the movement to build a mass party of labor that can represent